Hi everyone, this is Cem. I'm the principal analyst at AI Multiple, and previously I have been working on B2B tech for the past 20 years, being a consultant, technology buyer, and also a product leader at different companies, including McKinsey. And today we are here to learn more about UCBOS's story, and Jay is here to explain us. So it would be great, Jay, if you can start with an intro.
Thanks, Jim. I'm Jay Ganapathy. I'm Chief Commercial Officer for UCBOS. I appreciate the opportunity to present UCBOS to your audience today.
Awesome. And can you also explain the UCBOS platform a bit?
Sure. UCBOS is an application composition platform, Jim, that comes with all pre-built assets to precisely targets today's IT problem, which is the speed to market, right? UCBOS approach and architecture aids enterprises, adapts to the new normal, as we all know what is new normal today. So we broke away from the traditional boundaries to provide a modern digital platform that connects, collaborates, extends, spawns on-demand advanced analytics without technical debt.
Awesome. And I know that you are good at analogies. So could you break it down in layman's terms for the audience?
Sure. I know up composition, composable platform, no-code platform, application. These are all too much technical jargon. So our CTO and our folks typically explain this, as you said, in an analogy. So this is an analogy we usually use to our customers, to our end customers. So let's take, we all are very familiar with the Lego blocks and Star Wars Lego blocks and the freeform Lego blocks. So you can go and buy a Star Wars Lego blocks. Of course, it has all the puzzles and the pieces to it, but you got to definitely build a Star Wars puzzle, right? You cannot do anything more than that. Even if you attempt to do it, you won't get the intended outcome. Whereas in a free-form blocks, as long as you have the blocks, you can go and build a playground or a house or a school or whatever that your end vision is. So UCBOS is the latter form of composable platform, meaning we are a free-form block which comes with all the pre-built assets, which is required to really build application that than any enterprises is longing to build 10 times faster. Does that help you?
That's an awesome analogy. And I think it's going to be a bit more clearer for the audience when you explain it with a business case where the no-code approach that you are mentioning is proving the most impactful and helpful.
Sure. Typically, UCBOS is more for fit-for-purpose solutions, and it's really not a pointed solution; it's a fit-for-purpose solution. But it got to be about it's solving multivariant data or interdependencies across multiple functions. It touches the cloud, it touches on-prem. It got to be a lot more complex. It got to be touching multiple. That is one way of saying UCBOS is for a fit for purpose, which got to be a complex problem, which is lurking around multiple touch points. And that is the business case that we typically go after. And the outcomes, the business outcome could be an operational efficiency. It could avoid wastage. And of course, it's an increase the top line growth. That is the outcome, business UCBOS customers are solving.
All clear. And you highlighted the importance of complex problems and complex settings. So I'm going to talk about something that I frequently hear about. For example, if you listen to the low-code vendors, like let's take Mendix for an example, they frequently claim that no-code is more cases where customizations are required to be limited. There needs to be limited integrations, while they claim low code to be the domain where professional developers can work on solutions that are more complex. This is, I think, an opposing viewpoint compared to what you have just explained. And I also know that you guys are doing quite a bit of work in the supply chain domain, which is as complex and as multi-stakeholder as it gets. Can you explain a bit your rationale in your viewpoint?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to clarify our claim, Jim. My response to that is yes, UCBOS technology and our IP is the key differentiator for our client, right? Let me take an analogy again, right? If you are taking we all use coffee cups and we all use foam cups, paper cups, reusable porcelain cups, right? So I'm sure in a foam cup and a paper cup, they will say, hey, that's not for a really hot beverage, or it may have some restrictions to use that. Whereas a reusable porcelain, it's for, you can use it multiple times. You can either do a hot or cold drink, right? It doesn't mean they are an opposing view. It's meant to do. Foam cups and paper cups are meant for certain beverages, certain temperature, whereas a reusable porcelain is for certain reasons, right? So it's like that. When you ask me to compare this, I would say my make, model, my architecture is slightly different. That's why I'm able to make the climb, right? Speaking about a supply chain, of course, our entire leadership came from a supply chain background. From the start, we know supply chain use cases are very complex and it requires distinct approach, which is not the traditional approach, right? So we need a compelling technologies to solve it. At the same time, we do not want to scrap the layer with the plug and play trivial customizations or pre-built connectors. We also know there are a lot of best of the breed players in the SCM world who can do that, right? We want to solve the problem those vendors are struggling with, right? The best of the breed vendors are struggling with. If you ask me what are those problems, number one is the rigidity. Number two, the implementation time, right? The time to market is really, really long there. And although they have the fantastic operational solutions, right? So now coming to the rationale, UCBOS wants to solve those two problems, the rigidity, again, the implementation window. So UCBOS solved it with a no-code way, right? Our assets are industry neutral. That gives the flexibility. We have a pre-built integration assets that gives the n number of integrations possible. And last but not least, we have that unified logical data model, which auto-build the semantics that gives the n number of customization flexibility. So all these combination, it gives the architecture the flexibility to do and to deliver what we claim in the market.
So the no-code approach is in contrast with the more common approach that we see in supply chain management solutions, which is relying on a solution like SAP or Oracle, which comes with data models and processes, as well as some customization options. While working with SAP or Oracle allows a business access to a best practice approach, most customers end up requiring long customization processes. So can you give some process examples where these customizations are most prevalent and important? This can help potential users understand the value they can gain from a no-code approach.
Sure, that's a great question. So I think the listeners would definitely agree no two business is exact replica of the other. No two implementation is exactly the same, right? Even if you take SAP and Oracle and implement within the same customer on two different sites, the way they implement in one site might be different from other site. The reason being the business process, right? There are a variety of reasons where the customization is prevalent. Definitely unique business process, number one reason. Vendors do offer best practices as part of the off-the-shelf product. However, enterprises customize it differently for their business units or business channels or geography or business model, or based on their internal suppliers or manufacturers or customer segment, n number of deviations, right? Even sometimes even because of market condition, that's the new normal now. So they establish their own standard operating procedures, and although they are using the same off-the-shelf product. So that is the deviation. The second deviation is the competitive advantage. Although two different competitors are using the same product, the way they use the way they implement this, the way they set the standard operating process is totally different, right? In that case, they are doing it to really distract or beat the competitive moves. And last but not least, sometimes even the product will have gaps. So the business needs to fix that. They end up doing customization either on the vendor side or they solve it through the IT side. So combination of all three examples I outlined, it demands the customizations. And that's where we are bringing a platform like UCBOS. It could really say wherever there is a deviation, of course, you can adapt a base product. UCBOS will allow you to enhance and extend and customize based on your business case by business case.
And let's focus on an adjacent group of users. There are those with existing supply chain management implementations, but they want to achieve more flexibility. They want to iterate faster. And your recommendation to them based on what I have read so far is that they keep their existing supply chain management systems and leverage UCBOS.
Yes.
Of course, I mean, this introduces additional costs. So how do you sell this or explain this to the CFO? How would you prove the ROI to them?
Good. Yeah, in general, yes, we run into this question all the time. Is there a duplicate vendor? First of all, we are not replacing another player. We are augmenting your existing player. That's our client, right? We are augmenting. And the two rule of thumb that we typically tell our prospect is, if you have a business problem, right, or a use case or business challenge, what is the business impact in dollars by not addressing that use case? That's the number one reference point or key performance indicator. The second one is, what is the business impact in dollars by addressing the use case in composable way? So those are the two mainstream of KPI that we actually ask our customers. And the moment we derive that, that will be sufficient for the CFO.
Clear. Another concern can be the implementation timelines, because integration to a customized SCM system is going to be not like a plug and play affair. There's going to be some implementation work. So what are the steps and the timeline involved for your typical customer, for example?
Yeah, it's a weeks and days affair in UCBOS. The reason being, there is no development time involved as part of our project phase. There won't be any rigid schemas. There won't be any business logic, any hard-coded logic within our system. At the same time, one may ask me, hey, does that mean I have to really start over? No, not necessarily. UCBOS actually does a lot of templates, predefined templates, where you can repurpose it and you can extend on top of it. Our typical project phase involves discovery, design, a rapid composition phase. Again, there is no development here. It's only configuration and the testing and the UAT, right? User acceptance test. And then we go live. And once we go live, customers can continuously do rapid composition on top of it, and they can continue to push into the production.
All clear. So you were again talking about the no-code approach of the solution. And let's talk a bit about the dark side of no-code, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
you are recommending people with no programming experience to configure a complex multi-stakeholder business system. And I mean, of course, when you explain it like this to business stakeholders, they would be thinking that, oh, okay, but how are programming best practices like extensive testing, version control, etc., are going to be implemented by these non-technical people who don't have a technical background. So, in short, how do you deal with shadow IT? How do you ensure that the system is enterprise grade?
Good question again. The problem you're talking about, right? The version control, that is, or deployment, those kind of thing. It's really a low code problem, right? It is not a no code problem. The one we are talking about, the UCBOS offers a SaaS platform with assets to compose on the fly, right? Meaning we are giving you the assets, we are building it or we are composing it for the first time. It's going to be live in production. Any incremental changes or incremental compositions we are doing, it's going to be moved into production. Of course, there will be a testing, and testing, if it's impacting the existing composed items, it will be like a traditional testing. You got to make sure that it's not impacting the existing one. But that's again, a business users are familiar with the testing. But the version control is not in our scope of item. We do not have to develop a code. We don't have to deploy the code. We don't have to deal with that version control situation.
Clear. So the business users should just get used to testing their applications, and there should be a testing process. And yes, I agree that that should be a best practice in the no-code space. Very clear. And I mean, when we think about the implementation process, no-code tools empower domain experts at the company, but not every company has the capacity to build the solutions for their processes. So would be cool to hear a bit about your service offering as well.
Cool. Yeah. Yes, we often run into this type of prospects as well, and customers. We have our existing customers who belong to this type of category. They don't have an in-house IT team or business team who could really lead this effort. Right. In that scenario, we offer our services partner would compose the pointed solution for them. Right. They will sit with them. They will understand the discovery process. They will design it, and they will lead the composition on behalf of the end customer. As part of this process, they will help them on the domain expertise or the best practices, or they will bring the business knowledge required after studying their own internal business process. That's how we approach those customers who says, I don't have an in-house team. So a short answer is, yes, we do have a services team and the partners who could assist you with that, and where it will look like as if it's an off-the-shelf product. The only difference is you can continue to augment or you can continue to extend since it's a composed product. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. And how often do your customers require the services component?
I would say 2 out of 3 will definitely use this on the initial side of the project. Even tier 1 customers who have a strong IT team, they will use us for the first time they will use our services for the first time when they do the project. Once we do the first projects, once they get trained, once they get the handle on the product and the platform, they will, for the second project onwards, they will continue to own it themselves.
Awesome. This part is interesting. I mean, it could be cool to hear a bit more about the typical implementation journey. I know that this will depend a lot on their existing tech stack, their focus area, and so on, but would be great to hear about some typical implementation journey examples.
Sure. And implementation in the sense like one sales kind of identify the problem statements. Typically, they will talk about 1 or 2 problem statements. By the time implementation is ready, they know which problem they're going to pick, which one has the big bang for the buck, which one has the solid return of investment. So they will pick that particular use case. At that point of time, as part of the discovery, we will flesh out the problem statement, because typically that will be a lot of best of the breeds, a handful of cloud solutions, a handful of legacies. All this stuff will be in that ecosystem, right? So there is a reason. What is the gap? How we have to integrate all this stuff? Which schema I have to adapt? What is the business logic I have to build in? So those are the steps we will flush it out as part of discovery and design. But at the end of the design, we will know precisely how we are going to compose, how the look and feel going to be, what type of user controls that are going to be, how am I going to, what are the upstream, downstream system that we have to integrate with, and how it will, what's the business logic, what are we trying to solve here, and how is it going to be involving any analytics or AI, ML, or it could be a simple unified logical data model to bring the viewpoint to the customer, right? It could be a number of use cases, but by end of this design and design phase, we will know in and out. It's like as if that's a functional spec is ready. And the third phase is our composition phase, where we take the functional spec, we compose it, leveraging our existing templates, or even building something from scratch if the customer prefers to take that route. And once that phase is complete, we will go on, we'll hand over the environment to the customer team will test it. And once they bless it, we'll go live. And some projects, it may be a phase 1, phase 2 project. If the problem statement is bigger, then the customer prefers us to really break it down into a minor milestones. Then we will go milestones by milestones. So although we are live with phase 1, we can continue to compose for phase 2 and on. So that's how we attack any projects, implementation projects.
All clear. And would be cool to hear a bit more about the customer. So how would you define the ideal customer profile for UCBOS? And it would be interesting to contrast that with the customer profile of a typical supply chain management solution like Oracle or SAP.
Sure. Typically, our customer or prospects are retailers, manufacturers, consumer goods companies, or pharmas. Their ecosystem is, as you said rightfully, that it will be definitely a best of breed SAP, Oracle, and on the mix. Large best of the breeds, both on-prem, cloud, and legacy solutions. And one type that we have seen is either they'll be going through or they might have already gone through our mergers and acquisitions, or they are in the middle of mergers and acquisitions. And they may have an internal development team, and they are trying to create something internally. And the other flavors we have seen in this prospect is they're doing a lot of customizations, either in-house or they're creating dependencies with the vendors. Vendors are doing customizations. That means they are creating a lot of dependencies there. And last but not least, they may have some legacy solutions, but they're trying to move them to cloud. But none of their commercially available platforms could meet their existing legacies features. So we will help them break it down, saying, okay, here are the features that you definitely have to sunset because it's no longer relevant. The first phase is, okay, let's pick this commercial platform. The last one is anything that's not available as part of our cloud or commercial platforms, we compose it for them. So these are the different kind of approach, or at least prospects that we deal with.
Good. So if I can summarize, complex application landscape is typically a feature, and trigger points tend to be mergers and acquisitions, or it could be a application modernization effort. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, the third one is cloud SaaS solutions. If you want an extensions on top of it, a cloud SaaS. And if they are past platforms or even internal IT cannot extend it, and our platform will help you extend.
Clear. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jay. Those were all the questions on my mind, and yeah, love the analogies and looking forward to the next time.
Thank you for your time, Jim.